All right, good morning, everybody. So I was asked to talk about EU sustainability legislation. That's a very challenging task to do in 15 minutes. So thank you, Tim, for the challenge. I think it'd be easier to write a PhD than do it in 10 minutes. So also bearing in mind that some of you might not be very familiar with the EU context, I kept it quite basic and simple. But if you need any further clarification afterwards, I'm happy to complete. So yeah, so just a few words first about Union Fleur. So Union Fleur is the international umbrella organization for the trade in floricultural products, cut flowers, foliage and pot plants, and we represent and promote the interest of national associations and companies active in the trade. It was founded in 1959 and is based in Brussels. We have members in about 20 countries worldwide. We estimate that we represent over 3,000 companies that are active in the trade of cut flowers and pot plants globally. And our members account for more than 80% of global trade. And we have all the major market players in cut flowers and pot plants represented in the organization. Netherlands, Colombia, Ecuador, Kenya, Ethiopia, Germany, Italy, France, etc. So the previous speaker invited you to zoom out. I'm going to invite you to zoom in. And so to look at how the EU is looking at sustainability as far as regulations are concerned. I did put two drawings there just to remind that often, also in the EU, also EU policymakers, when they talk about sustainability, they tend to limit it to environment or environmental rules and legislation. So I wanted to remind that sustainability is much more than that, as Dan has also explained. Sustainability is the combination of the 3P, to make it simple: people, planet, prosperity. So that's what sustainability is about. It's not just about environment. So I'll take you straight into the Green Deal. I think you are aware, or you've heard about the Green Deal. So this is the Green Deal was launched in 2019 by the EU. So it was basically the response of the EU to the Paris Agreement of 2015. So the contribution of the EU to keep global warming to maximum plus 1.5 degree above pre-industrial levels. So the Green Deal was developed and launched in 2019. The main objective, the main strategy is basically about green transition. So transitioning the EU economy into green, but also a growth strategy. And the main objective is to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. But it's also about boosting the use of resources by shifting to a circular economy. It's also about stopping biodiversity loss, about cutting pollution, and also fostering sustainable economic growth and improving the quality of life of European citizens. So it's a very comprehensive roadmap and action plan that seeks to basically transform the challenges into actual opportunities for the EU economy and lead to growth. So it does touch across all policy areas. It impacts all economic sectors. And it also aims to decouple growth from the use of resources and to make the transition, the sustainable transition, just and inclusive for all. So as you can see, the three pillars, people, planet, profit, are reflected in the objectives of the EU Green Deal. The big the big step that was taken with the Green Deal was basically to shift from voluntary. Until then, it was a voluntary system. With the Green Deal, we're shifting to legally binding regulations and obligations. So a system that is mandatory and standardized, and it's also it also aims to shape markets. So basically, to use regulations to give a direction to capital flows and to business model, and to invest into sustainable development and growth. So I've listed the main pillars and instruments that are part of the EU Green Deal. So it's about it's environmental protection, sustainable finance, corporate responsibility, and just transition. So that's the full plan, the overview in terms of policy and regulations. You might have seen it already. That's what was launched in 2019. So now remember, 2019 was just before a major events, global events, pandemic, followed by geopolitical events, economic crisis, inflation. So it was basically, the timing couldn't be better. It was announced by the EU in 2019, and by 2020 the world was upside down. So, but that was the intention. So basically, across all kinds of policies to greenify existing rules, to stimulate growth by transitioning to a more sustainable approach. This has, so that was the initial plan in 2019. I've extracted a few examples that could be or have been or would have been relevant for our products. By the way, when I realized I'm used to talk about floriculture, but I mean, actually, we don't really have a clear word. Horticulture, ornamental horticulture, floriculture. Basically, flowers and plants at large. It's not just for flowers. So these are examples of legislations, regulations that have been derived from the big agenda, and that have had or will have an impact for our sector. Some of them have not completely delivered, or have been announced but have not yet been implemented, are yet to come. I'm thinking one example is sustainable use of pesticides regulation that was supposed to be one of the main regulations delivered by EU Green Deal, was supposed to reduce the chemical use by 50%, and basically completely stalled and could not be delivered. So at the moment it is in standby, but as Dan mentioned, this has nevertheless opened the door for now relaunching a specific initiative or specific regulation to speed up the authorization of biocontrol solutions. So it's not been a complete failure, but yeah, the overall objective is for the moment is stalled. There are other areas, biodiversity strategy with nature restoration law, the water framework directive, the renewable energy directive, all these regulation can have or will have an impact on horticulture. At the top, I put the three regulations that are actually that actually do exist, have been adopted and in the process of being implemented, and that will be actually quite relevant for our sector. Maybe the most direct one is the one about packaging and packaging waste. We call it PPWR, that's the acronym. This one will have a direct impact for our sector because we use quite a lot of packaging, be it for plants or for cut flowers. So this regulation tend to or will impose recyclability and reuse of packaging to limit the use of plastic. So this will be, it's entering into force next year, August 26, and so this one will definitely have an impact on our products. The other two, one is about due diligence, the due diligence directive. That's an important one as well. Especially because our products tend to have a very international supply chain, and this directive aims to basically ensure that at each step of the supply chain there is a due diligence observed. So it will have also an impact on our products. And the other one on the top left, it's about the sustainability reporting directive and sustainable finance disclosure regulations. These are about transparency and financial and reporting. So these have also a direct impact on the companies in our sector. Just to mention that this one is also under review, so it's being reviewed. Some of the objectives that were defined in the first version are now being reviewed, and the thresholds. So we don't have yet the full picture, but it will definitely have an impact. So now to try and take a perspective about the EU sustainability agenda, look at it from the perspective of our sector. I wanted to look at challenges and opportunities, and actually when I was making my list I realized that every challenges I could find or I could list could be matched more or less by an opportunity. So I might miss something, but I think it's quite interesting to look at. So I tried to match them. So the first point is exactly what we discussed earlier with Jennifer. The EU Green Deal is challenging because it's expected to raise costs for regulatory compliance on EU businesses, but also non-EU by extension. So that's definitely a challenge. But at the same time, as I explained, having harmonized rules clear rules across EU can also reduce uncertainty and reduce fragmentation of the market, both for the EU operators and non-EU, so it has also a benefit. The increase of costs, production costs in particular, obviously, need for investment in greenhouses, in lighting, in energy system. To some extent, higher labor costs for labor conditions. Also, the cost of verification and certification. This again can be matched by stimulation of innovation and research and development in production processes in our sector. So we know there's already a lot going on, but I think it will continue to stimulate smart greenhouse technology, precision horticulture, renewable energy, water recycling, and also reduce the reliance on plant protection products and stimulate a greater use of IPM and biocontrol tools. Then moving on to the supply chain itself, everything related to transport, packaging, cold chain management, which are under high scrutiny because they are deemed as high contributors to the performance, the environmental performance of our sector. I think this can also result in a greater efficiency at the end of the day. So better logistics or a better choice of transport, a lot of innovation in packaging and a lot of improvements in the cold chain management as well to retain the quality and reduce losses. Maybe I'll switch to the last one, which is an important one. One of the challenges is that all this roadmap obviously also increase the consumer awareness and demand for sustainability by consumers. So it's about carbon footprint, about working conditions, about the provenance of products, the use of chemicals in particular. So this puts a lot of pressure on our sector to actually respond to the increased scrutiny from consumers. But actually we can look at it also in a positive way as an opportunity. This also drives a lot more transparency in our sector and supply chain, a lot more data collection, which will be very useful to keep improving. And so, all in all, I think it does balance out, especially if we look at the longer term. So now to some concluding points. The EU sustainability agenda, the Green Deal, is really in the process of reshaping economic sectors. And by extension will also impact market access and competitiveness. So how to best adjust from a company's perspective and how to deliver impact. The most important is to treat sustainability as a strategic core business driver rather than a regulatory burden. So basically to aim at going beyond compliance. So it means fully integrate sustainability into operations, embed sustainability goals into business strategy rather than treating compliance as a side task, engage the entire supply chain and evaluate the environmental impact of products from sourcing to disposal. That's the life cycle analysis approach. It's also an invitation to build a robust data reporting system and to continuously improve and innovate to meet the goals of circular economy and decarbonization, which can also ultimately open new opportunities for our sector in the areas of packaging, flower varieties, plant health, transport, etc. Also, a very important point is to communicate transparently and to monitor evolving regulations, because what I've presented is actually a very dynamic environment, regulatory environment. As I said, it's still moving, and we'll keep adjusting. So it's important to monitor closely. And then a final point, which actually I think reflects also the objective of today, is the power of cooperation. So thanks again to AIPH for inviting me today. Cooperation is very important in our sector. It's going to be even more in the area of sustainability, and actually we have already examples of active cooperation across our industry that has already delivered results and show as well that our sector has been good at anticipating. So one of them is the FSI, the Floriculture Sustainability Initiative, which was launched in 2013, so quite a long time ago already. So I think it's a good reflection of that our industry was able to anticipate in that area, get organized, and start working on pre-competitive agenda before the EU came up with any regulatory agenda. Another example that I wanted to mention is the work that has been done across the industry on developing the FLORIPEF-CR, which is the methodology now fully endorsed by the EU to measure the environmental impact of our products. So it's a work that has been going on for 5 years, 2019 to 2024. It was a lot of work and required a lot of commitment from a variety of organizations. But I think it was good to have it done because now we are able to start calculating, measuring, and we are ahead of many other sectors. So on this, let me just invite to even more cooperation in the future to deal with those challenges. Thank you.